Yes, I'm waiting.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Office Hours. This is the Soul of Business edition of Office Hours, and this is number 781. We are racking the episodes up as we continue to do these on a live basis a couple times a week. David is not with us today. He is on a well-deserved holiday with his wife Julie. They're spending some very well-deserved R&R in Italy. And my co-host and co-conspirator on the show, Rhett Butler, Rhett Powers. I was going to say Rhett Butler. Rhett Powers is trapped on an airline right now. So you got me today, Blaine Bartlett. I am your host, and we're going to just be running right down through the list of our guests today. So that being said, I spoke about airplanes. TSA is continuously bringing up new guidelines about what can and can't be carried onto planes, what can and can't be packed into your checked luggage. Most of it has to do with fire hazards and with lithium-ion batteries and battery packs and chargers and that sort of thing. Our guest, first guest today, I'm fascinated by what we're working with and what they're working with. Roger Mort is the COO. There you are. Hello, Roger. The COO of Packaging and Crating Technologies, euphemistically called PACT. And you have done some fascinating work, and I say you specifically because I think you kind of led the charge on this. But PACT in general is a preferred DoD vendor with safety and fire suppression and a number of different innovative ways that you're working with packaging. You're a world leader in packaging, and everything that kind of goes along with that. And I'm mentioning this because I did for a number of years work with an organization out of Finland called Huhtamaki, and they were one of the largest at the time packaging cardboard in particular, but packaging organizations on the planet. And the idea of being able to handle the risk that is entailed with the way people pack things and actually ship things, I think it's absolutely crucial in today's environment. And you've developed something that I think is fascinating for our listeners to hear and our listeners to hear called the Thermo Shield. And if you'd like to just open the door and give us a peek inside what that might be. And first of all, just welcome to the show, Roger.
Thermo Shield came along.
There we go.
There was a guy who called us and he was looking to take two of our crates that are made out of corrugated and spray paint them and light them on fire. And I was like, okay, why? And he says, oh, the lithium battery industry is like they're sinking and planes are coming down out of the sky because of these batteries blowing up. And I was like, okay. I had no clue at that point. So we worked together. We did several projects. And the Thermo Shield, we're trying to use a paint, but the paint basically was too hard to put onto the paper, and it made it so stiff that you couldn't really wrap anything. So when we changed it into an ink and we printed it onto the paper, what it does is as soon as something goes over 200 degrees Fahrenheit, it surrounds the item with coolness and moisture headed towards it. So these lithium batteries, when they're getting ready to blow up, they hit about 500, 600 degrees, and then all of a sudden they send out a quart of gas into the air. Well, that quart of gas grabs oxygen, waits a second, and then gets sucked back in. And then a simple
Oh, did we lose Roger here? It looks like we lost Roger. Or did we lose me? This is interesting. Okay, you can see and hear me. Is Roger still there? Because I cannot see him on my feed at all.
Hey, Blaine, it's good to see you. How are you?
Hey, Nick, I'm doing well. I'm doing well here. Did we lose Roger?
I can see Gigi's just in the green room. She's trying to work with Roger to help him with some of the technical difficulties. So I can see that they're working through that as we speak. But I know that she'll also work with the next guest to try to get them on early so we can keep this well-oiled machine rocking. But in the meantime, Blaine, I would actually love to hit you with a question because I will never let the opportunity to squeeze that lemon and get some lemonade out of it. So as a lifelong learner, you know, one of the things that I've been becoming even more conscious towards recently is the interference that we create, especially energetically. And so, you know, obviously I've been a student of David's for, 5+ years now. And I want to understand from your perspective that on a day-to-day basis, what is your process that you have for limiting the amount of time that you spend in that resistance? Because we all know the circumstances of the day are always going to come up, and everybody has, I think, conceptually, a pretty good foundation to work off of, but it's the execution that is a little bit different from person to person.
Yeah, Nick, that's a great question because, quite frankly, I mean, stuff happens. This is a great example of it. And I think that the way to work with that has to do with just exactly what you're exemplifying here is it's an unexpected opportunity. And I mean, literally, when you begin to think in terms of any perturbation, anything that kind of throws me off balance, first of all, I want to come back to center because I'm more resourceful when I can come back to a centered place going, wow, that was okay. Let's kind of take a breath. Yeah. That pause in the middle. Now, what's the next step that I can take here that would be generative in service of what it is that we're trying to do here? So in the context of this show, this is an educational format. We're looking for ways to bring ideas to people, looking for ways to illuminate, things that people are doing that are innovative and unique. And so your willingness and ability to just kind of step in and go, hey, I got a question here that is going to be, that's the way this works. If you can begin to position anything that goes on in life as an unexpected opportunity, if it's kind of going against where you thought you were heading, it gives you an opportunity to kind of play and get creative and innovative. And I think that that's usually going to be the best way to work. It allows for a sense of equanimity to kind of come into play here. You can kind of settle, and it's kind of an unexpected opportunity. How do I play with this now?
I like that. And that's going to shift my perspective because now, right, like already growing, kind of arms and legs from that is the takeaway of, listen, right, I need to start counting my unexpected blessings that I get every single day, right? Rather than looking at the obstacles that we may come over. Man, goodness, I had 15 unexpected blessings today, right?
Yeah.
What an incredible opportunity. So, but it looks like our friend Roger is back. Let's take a look here. Roger, we got you loud and clear. Can you see and hear us?
Yes.
Looks like we're still having some audio issues.
Yeah, your microphone's still a little funky, I think, Roger.
Let's try that again. All right, Gigi, we'll have, if you can work with Roger either to do a quick reschedule, but it looks like our next friend, Jonathan, is here and he's ready to rock and roll early. So Blaine, I will remove myself and allow you and Jonathan to have some fun, but I appreciate always getting to see you, my friend. Have a great rest of your day.
Nick. Thank you for stepping in. An unexpected opportunity to see you. I always enjoy that.
I love it. Have a good one.
Okay, buddy. Hey, Jonathan, how you doing?
Blaine, I am reasonably well rested, slightly over caffeinated. I just got done with a walk with a couple of dogs. So life is pretty good today.
Life is pretty good. Okay. Hey, you cannot be too over caffeinated in my estimation. It's just
my heart rate would disagree, but I hear you.
Okay. Well, a part of this has to do with, how do we enjoy what we're doing? And you've got, I think, a real interesting organization that you work with, Enjoy the Work. And, you just kind of cop to this. I'm not familiar with everything that you do there. I'm just kind of reading the show notes that our production team has put together here. Why don't you kind of walk me through not only a timeline, but also an intent line with what it is that you're doing with Enjoy the Work.
So, Blaine, I'm a longtime operator, ran a bunch of different kinds of companies. I started in big public companies, then I was a private equity CEO, then I did back-to-back startups. And when I left my last startup, I ended up, dog with a bone, I ended up getting a little manic with this question. And it was, I believed at the time, and I've since spent a decade studying this, but I believed at the time, my hypothesis at the time is that all well-run companies, Blaine, look the same. That if in fact you had like an illegal camera and you could just watch well-run companies, you would see there's the presence of vision and mission and values and a communication infrastructure that makes sense and values that would drive kind of customer decision-making and KPIs that are leading and lagging indicators. Like the same stuff is there.
Yeah.
And I had spent at this point a lot of years in startup land. And so this question started to show up for me that when the founder, who's an inventor, they've come up with something crazy, and the market says, hey, I care about that thing you're building, their job just changed, right? They go from being an inventor, they now have to build a company around it.
Yeah.
So they're being asked to lead a company, never done it before, most times. And we know how well-run companies operate. We know what they do. Well, how does the founder learn those things while doing the job? That was the over and over again, the thought in my head of like, how does that happen? Mm-hmm. And so I've spent 10 years now with my partners obsessing about how do founders learn those skills? How do you best teach those skills? How do you audit a founder and a startup along that journey? And why hasn't this been solved before? So that is both intent and origin story to answer your question.
Okay, I love that. So, I mean, the metaphor that kind of comes to mind as you're speaking here is we're laying the asphalt as we're driving the car down the road.
Without question, like the old startup proverb of build and fly the plane at the same time. Yes, yeah. We're saying the same thing.
I've been playing with this notion for a while around the idea of sustainable success. And Marshall Goldsmith's whole point about what got me here won't get me there. So that's and in my experience, in the 40 plus years, almost 50 years now that I've been consulting and working with startups, with enterprise organizations, the default almost always is to replicate an existing model. And this is where best practices come into play and that sort of a thing, which in today's world doesn't really hold a lot of water if we're looking to sustain success over time. So I started looking at what does it really mean to sustain success? And what I landed on, and I'm going to just check this out with you, Jonathan, it's about developing the capacity to continuously start over in pursuit of a worthy ideal. That's kind of how I've come to define it. So developing the capacity to continuously start over. Most founders, in my experience, don't know what that capacity component actually entails as they move from the founder into now an operating CEO. What capacities, and bundled into that are skill sets and knowledge and information. I mean, all of that sort of stuff kind of comes into play here. In the work that you do with your clients, have you been able to identify, and this would be my language for it, I'm not suggesting that it's yours, but what capacity holders, what capacity pillars do you actually organize their migration from that founding mentality mindset into more of an operating CEO strategic focus mindset?
If I say that back to you, Blaine, it's what are the buckets of skills that together make the masterful CEO?
Mm-hmm.
We think of that in 3 chunks, 3 buckets. Bucket number 1 is, forgive something reductive, Blaine, do they know how to run a company?
That.
And so if you break that into its component parts, the DNA of that, it's do you understand how to build a financial plan? And do you know how to set goals? And do you know how to hire well? And do you know how to raise capital? And do you know how to manage a board? And do you know how to create a communication structure so that the left hand knows what the right hand's doing and information gets institutionalized? The reason we simplify that and running a company is because if you'll notice, all of those skills I just described are agnostic to the conceit of the business.
Right.
I don't care if it's health tech or med tech or consumer or hardware, it's the same stuff. The second bucket that we describe are what we kind of call functional skills or functional management.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know what great looks like in marketing and sales and legal and HR, et cetera? Do you know how to hire great? Are you sufficiently conversant in those areas to be able to identify with those humans and manage them well? And you know the bag of tricks each of them have, like the toolkits.
Mm-hmm.
You'll never be, even as the best of CEOs, more expert in their areas than they are. But you need to know enough so that you can help direct, help guide, be a thought partner, be a leader. The third bucket and the final one of the capacities, to use your language, is what we kind of call self-management. Yeah. Classic social emotional training, right? Psychological safety and conflict resolution and accountability and self-care. Whenever we get our hands on a founder brain, it's which of these things are you good at? Which of these things are you bad at? And of the things you're bad at, which ones matter today? Because your company's at a given stage and some of them don't matter yet.
Yeah. And I've got to imagine, just in terms of, the founders, entrepreneurs, we're kind of an interesting class of individuals here in one sense here. Egos are large. Who I am is, in my results. I mean, my company is an expression of who I am. In many
another
ways.
Appendage. It's a child.
Exactly. In the coaching work I do and the consulting work I've done with startups and folks that have actually gotten over the revenue hump and they're actually, they're now percolating, they're actually working. The biggest impediment that I find oftentimes has to do with, and it's moving into that next level, is the leader, the founder, letting go of the egoic attachment they have to the baby. This is my baby, sort of a thing. Now they can, and I've over and over and over again, I've heard them talk about, well, I understand that and I can let go, but they actually don't let go. What have you done? And this is why I'm intrigued with Enjoy the Work, because they don't find that letting go piece enjoyable, because there's an identity component that's kind of wedded into that mix.
So Blaine, I love the question. There is, the name of the company is both selfish as well as an aspiration we want for our founders. It doesn't mean that every step in the 10 or 12 years it takes to go from idea through positive outcome is actually fun. Some of it sucks.
Yeah.
There is two different versions of this language, and then we'll play it back to the CEO who's having trouble letting go. And perhaps for ego reasons or scarcity reasons or fearful reasons. But these are the same kind of things that show up in relationships as well. It's, are you more concerned about being right or being happy? Are you more concerned with being rich or being in control?
Yeah.
One of the consistent themes of our work with CEOs, I imagine it's similar to yours as well, Blaine. It's, hey, I'm on your team. I'm not fiduciary. I'm not a board member. I'm not an investor. I'm not here to fire you or judge you or any of the things.
Mm-hmm.
If you have the motivation to close the gap between the CEO you are, the operator you are, and the one your company needs you to be, I am the safe space to help you close that gap. And all I'll do, just the same as you, is my imagination, Blaine, is through a rather rigorous assessment, I'll put up the mirror.
Yeah.
And then, Blaine, we have language that we use is we don't teach motivation.
Good.
You want to pay attention to what's in the mirror? Great. If you don't, great. It's on you. Now, if the CEO then says several times, I want to change this, and then they don't act, Blaine, I say this with love, but we walk away.
Yeah.
Because I'm not here to not have impact.
Thank you. Yeah. I mean, if I want it more than they do, and that shows up in behavior, if I want it more than they do, it's not going to work. It's not going to work. Yeah.
Now back to your capacity question. What I will tell you is language that we use with our founders all the time, because the terrifying thing to them that they realize over time is that the job keeps changing.
Yeah.
the job of inventing something versus launching something versus growing something versus scaling something versus exiting something. They're wildly different freaking jobs. And we believe that the CEO is the queen on the chessboard. They can make every move. They are the only person at a company that could actually mature, evolve, change at the same pace as their wildly scaling startup if they want to. And what we argue is that we just want the CEO to have the choice. Let's give you all the skills. And if at some point this stops being fun at 100 employees or 1,000 or 10,000, great. At least you can walk away, because if you don't have the skills, you're going to be asked to leave. And that's a moment I would not wish upon any CEO.
Yeah, no, and you and I both have run into that with clients with whom we worked, and that's not an easy conversation. I remember one time I was actually cruising on a little pleasure craft up in the San Juans in the Northwest Pacific here near Seattle.
That sounded pretty good.
And I got a phone call from a CEO I'd been working with. The board had just fired him. And we had been talking about, what's your relationship with the board? Because there's a whole backstory to that. But the idea here of, and this is, the whole notion of self-awareness and systems awareness. What's the system? Because the system has shifted. And if he's not paying attention to the shift in the system, the likelihood of being blindsided comes up pretty quickly. And that's exactly what's happened. Now, I've continued to work with him over the years, and he's learned, how to pay attention to that. But
we have this playful language of, we want our founders to make new mistakes, not old mistakes.
Thank you.
We know what all the old mistakes are. We're going to show them to you. Now, if they still choose to make them, that's sad. There is, I'm curious if you run into this as well, but when you do some sort of initial evaluation or assessment of a CEO, how do you figure out whether or not they are in fact coachable?
That's the $64,000 question. And partly how that begins to show up for me is if they begin to contact me outside of regular hours. I mean, and at that point in time, I know that they're curious. I know that they're interested. I know that they're looking for a resource, and they're beginning to treat me as a resource, or treat what we're doing as a resource add rather than a time suck.
Yes. That lands really well for me. I will tell you one, we have something similar. We give them homework when we first get to know them very early in it, to see if they actually are willing to set aside the calories to do the work.
Yeah.
The second thing is we look for a way to fight with them.
Good.
I don't mean we take a swing, but we're going to find a way to disagree and insert some tension into the room. Because what I'm most looking for is whether or not they stay curious in that moment.
Yeah.
Because if so, then this can be beautiful. But if it turns to defensive right away, then we're not here to push against the wall.
Aye. Jonathan, I've loved this conversation. We can continue this for some time. And I've got Michael waiting in the wings here in the green room. So where can people find out more about Enjoy the Work and what it is that you guys are up to?
I think the easiest way is, the URL is easy to remember, enjoythework.com. We have a blog on there. And most interestingly, if you're a founder, we're running CEO boot camps in addition to our one-on-one work. So if you're new to the role, you can check us out, and there's a chance we can help you be in a little less pain. Blaine, thanks for the time today.
Jonathan, thank you. Folks have been listening to Jonathan Lowenhar, and Enjoy the Work. Check it out. I think they're doing some very interesting stuff there, and I think it would be worth your time to kind of lift the hood up and see what's under there. And that being said, lifting the hood up, how do you actually keep things moving? This is part of the theme of the soul of business. Every idea looks for expression, and once we reach a certain inflection point, and it's kind of like, well, this looks like it's going to work. Now there's another level. The soul of anything is always looking for a fuller and fuller expression. So our next guest here, Michael Ioffe, Michael Ioffe. Yeah, there we go. Michael Ioffe. There we go.
Howdy. How's
How
it
you doing, Michael? Yeah, I
Good.
want to kind of give us a little bit here. Yeah, the work that you do at Arist.co is looking at how you turn rejection into progress, scaling mission-driven business. I mean, there's just a lot of different things that are kind of involved in growth and in expression. And then not to, the least of which is the creative, tapping into that creative piece that for me, I call the soul of the business, the soul of the enterprise, the soul of the idea. What is it? What's looking to come out? What are you doing with Arist.co that is unique to Arist as an organization?
Yeah, totally. And just to set context for anybody who doesn't know about Arist, we're one of the fastest growing AI companies in sales enablement and learning and development. So we essentially help organizations rapidly create training, deliver it to reps and employees in the flow of work. I think for us, the soul of what we do is really accessibility, right? I mean, we started as a way to deliver learning in war zones. And realize that in war zones, internet access is very limited, but everybody has access to a phone. That's consistent throughout our work, right? We regularly donate platform access. And I think, there's something beautiful about starting a company with a deep mission to help others, right? And so that's very core to what we do.
Now, in war zones, that's learning in a war zone. Yeah, talk a little bit more about that.
Totally. Yeah. So, I used to run one of the world's largest entrepreneurship education nonprofits. We had a really hard time reaching learners in hard to reach locations, right? In places like the Yemen war zone where people didn't have access to internet, limited access to laptops, et cetera. And we realized that, at that point, learning was being delivered online in like PowerPoints and webinars and like e-learnings. And we realized that those methods were not effective at actually truly making learning accessible. And so I think what's interesting is that, you oftentimes don't hear sort of how technology doesn't reach the people that need it the most, right? And that was sort of the core initial insight behind Arist.
And part of the modality that you've worked with, particularly given the limited bandwidth that was available, or even bandwidth period, just using the telephony as the primary you've been able to secure work with some of the largest, Fortune 500 clients on the planet today. And you're, the state of California, you're working Ford, Pfizer, Amazon. And your approach to it is innovative. It's different in a number of different ways than some of the other larger, and I say larger in the sense of more recognized, perhaps, learning platforms out there. What would you say is that unique component that allows you to actually differentiate in the way that you do?
Yeah, we actually care about outcomes, right? I mean, the thing is that, I'm sure everybody listening to this has taken like a really boring click-through training at work, right?
Once or twice.
Right. Yeah. To me, it's like, look, I think when you build software, you have a responsibility to the people that you serve, right? You have a responsibility to the learners that go through the experiences that you build. For example, in our case, right? And I think a lot of platforms were just checking the box. They were just making really bad software that had a bad user experience, and they didn't care at all about the learner experience. They only cared about revenue, right? And they only cared about getting as much revenue as possible. For us, we really care about making a great user experience, right? And I think our broad point of view is that if you don't care about user experience, you will die as a company, right? Like the companies that win and lose in this era, right, especially when you can build software quickly, is deep care and deep thought.
Which is I'm not going to describe it as unique necessarily, but it's a difference that makes a difference. Instead of focusing, and this is a question around scaling, instead of focusing on the revenue side of it, the customer experience side of it is absolutely, from what I'm hearing, crucial to your ability to scale effectively your organization. I've got a hunch, and I'm going to check this hunch out with you. It's also one way that you actually mitigate the growth, the runaway growth. Seduction? Let's just grow bigger. More revenue. more market share. With the focus on end user experience, keeping that in the forefront. How do you do that with your decision-making process? Because I know people want to have, particularly with an investing side of the business here, they want to have an ROI that is coming faster than, coming quicker rather than slower.
Yeah. I think if you look at companies like Figma took a very long time to build a really great product before. And then, I think there are businesses where the product wins when it's nearly perfect, right? There are businesses where the product can win earlier. Our point of view is that, we're building to something bigger, and we're building to like a truly great product that can grow way faster at that point in time, right? And I mean, we're an incredibly fast growing company, right? We're growing 3 to 4x year over year at a large revenue scale, right? So, but yeah, I think broader point of view is that, it's really important to have the craft up front because that helps you succeed down the line.
Yeah. I love what you're up to. And you can find out more about Arist. Get the name right here, arist.co. Check them out. And like I said, I mean, you've got some very interesting clients that have come on board with you: HP, Pfizer, Ford, Amazon, State of California. Science-backed training that's reaching over almost 4 million employees worldwide right now. So as a victim of some of these online learning programs, I'm looking forward to learning more about how you're actually setting this stuff up, because if that code can get cracked, all of a sudden things become possible in a different way. And part of the key to sustainability in an organizational perspective, sustainable success, is having people that are excited about learning. And when people are excited about learning, the organization is going to be growing. So love what you're up to with that.
Awesome. Really appreciate it. Yeah, super nice to meet you.
Michael, we'll have you back on another show. David, I don't know if you caught the initial comments on the front end, but he's on a holiday, well-deserved holiday right now. Awesome. We'll have you back on another show when he's available. And because I know he's going to be fascinated by what it is that you're up to with this.
Awesome. Thanks so much. Yeah, super excited to be here. And thanks for having me as well.
You bet. Michael Ioffe. Thank you. Well, folks, that wraps us up here. Office Hours, the Solo Business Edition. I am your host today, Blaine Bartlett. You can find out more about what I'm up to. Actually, when I've mentioned sustainable success a couple of times here, just fortuitously, and that's my takeaway, by the way. We always do a little bit of takeaway here. Yeah. And the idea of how do you sustain success over time? Yeah, innovation comes into play. Inspiration is part of that. But there is a whole area of exploration that I think is legitimate that does not get addressed a whole lot when people are looking at how do we sustain success over time. And that has to do with what's the capacity that we need to develop in ourselves and with our team and with our organization that allows us to continue to learn. So I've got a little toolkit that I put together that's available on my website, leader.blainebartlett.com. And if you go to leader.blainebartlett.com, what you'll find is just a quick landing page that gives you a little bit of an overview of a very inexpensive leadership toolkit, a sustainable success toolkit. So my encouragement there would be, check it out, see what you can find. Gigi, thank you. You are wonderful. Thank you. Okay. And folks, we'll see you next week, next Thursday, regular time, regular station, and hopefully with all three of our regular hosts, myself, David, and Rhett. Thanks for listening, and have a great rest of your week. Take care.